On September 23, 2025, a federal jury delivered a verdict that sent shockwaves across the nation. Ryan Routh, a 59-year-old resident of North Carolina, was found guilty of attempting to assassinate former President Donald Trump. The trial, held in a packed federal courthouse, drew intense media attention and public scrutiny as the details of Routh's plot came to light. For weeks, the nation watched as the prosecution laid out a chilling narrative of intent and preparation, while the defense struggled to explain Routh's actions. The case began with a chilling incident at Trump's Florida golf course, a moment that could have changed American history forever. Early one morning, security at the course detected suspicious activity near the perimeter. Within minutes, law enforcement responded, uncovering evidence of a carefully orchestrated plan. The golf course, usually a place of leisure and luxury, was suddenly transformed into the scene of a national security crisis. The attempted attack sent ripples of fear and uncertainty through the community and the country at large. Investigators soon discovered that Routh's plot involved months of meticulous planning. He had acquired a high-powered rifle, mapped out the golf course, and studied the former president's routines. Authorities also uncovered a troubling history of instability and online posts that hinted at violent intentions. The evidence painted a portrait of a man consumed by obsession, willing to risk everything to carry out his plan. Law enforcement officials described the operation as one of the most serious threats to a public figure in recent memory. During the trial, the prosecution presented overwhelming evidence of Routh's intent, including surveillance footage, intercepted communications, and expert testimony. The jury listened intently as prosecutors described how Routh moved from violent fantasy to concrete action. The defense, meanwhile, argued that Routh's mental health struggles clouded his judgment, but the weight of the evidence was undeniable. The courtroom was tense, with every revelation adding to the gravity of the case. When the guilty verdict was read, chaos erupted in the courtroom. Routh, overcome with emotion, attempted a desperate act of self-harm, prompting a swift response from law enforcement and medical personnel. His daughter, present in the gallery, broke down in tears, her anguished cries echoing through the chamber. The scene was a stark reminder of the human cost behind such acts of violence and the deep wounds they leave on families and communities. In the aftermath, the nation is left to confront difficult questions about the motivations behind such violence and the urgent need for stronger protections for public figures. The Ryan Routh case has reignited debates about political rhetoric, mental health, and the responsibilities of law enforcement. As the country grapples with the implications, one thing is clear: the threat to public safety remains real, and the need for vigilance has never been greater. On a seemingly ordinary Sunday morning at Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach, the sun rose over the manicured greens, casting long shadows across the dew-covered fairways. Donald Trump, the former president, was out on the course, enjoying a round of golf with close friends and longtime associates. The atmosphere was relaxed, with laughter echoing across the open spaces as caddies hustled to keep up with the players. For Trump, this was a familiar routine, a brief escape from the pressures of public life, surrounded by the comfort of loyal supporters and the security of his detail. Yet beneath the surface, a sense of unease lingered. Secret Service agents, ever vigilant, scanned the crowd and the tree lines, their eyes trained to spot anything out of the ordinary. The golf course, usually a place of leisure, had become a stage for heightened alertness. Every movement was scrutinized, every unfamiliar face noted. Unbeknownst to the players, danger was closer than anyone realized. Concealed deep within the thick bushes bordering the sixth hole, Ryan Routh lay in wait. He had constructed a makeshift sniper's nest, camouflaged by branches and leaves, his breathing slow and measured. In his hands, he gripped a loaded SKS rifle, its barrel trained on the fairway. From his vantage point, he had a clear line of sight to where Trump would soon appear, his finger resting lightly on the trigger as he waited for the perfect moment. Routh's plan was not a spur-of-the-moment decision. He had spent weeks meticulously preparing for this day, studying Trump's movements, analyzing security patterns, and mapping out possible escape routes. He pored over surveillance footage, took detailed notes on the routines of the golf course staff, and even rehearsed his approach under the cover of darkness. Every detail was accounted for, every risk weighed against his ultimate goal. His objective was chillingly clear: to assassinate a major political figure, regardless of the consequences or the collateral damage. Routh was driven by a twisted sense of purpose, convinced that his actions would send a message to the world. Law enforcement agencies had long warned of the dangers posed by lone actors, but even the most thorough preparations can be tested by the unpredictable. As Trump's group approached the sixth hole, a sharp-eyed Secret Service agent caught a fleeting glint of metal reflecting in the morning sun, a detail that might have gone unnoticed by anyone else. Instantly, the agent's training kicked in. He signaled discreetly to his team, his voice calm but urgent as he relayed the suspicious sighting. The agents moved swiftly, their years of experience guiding their every step. That split-second observation set off a rapid chain reaction. Within moments, agents converged on the area, moving with precision and determination. Routh's plan unraveled before he could act. He was apprehended on the spot, his weapon confiscated, and his escape route cut off. The threat was neutralized thanks to the quick thinking and coordinated response of the security team. The day, which began as just another round of golf, was ultimately saved by the vigilance, professionalism, and unwavering dedication of those sworn to protect. Their actions not only averted a tragedy, but also served as a powerful reminder of the constant vigilance required to safeguard public figures in an unpredictable world. A Secret Service agent, whose name remains confidential, spotted Routh's rifle in the brush and acted instantly. Using binoculars, the agent confirmed the threat and raised his weapon as Routh aimed back at him. The agent fired, missing Routh but forcing him to drop his rifle and flee. The course went into lockdown as law enforcement swarmed the area and secured Trump's safety. Routh's loaded rifle was recovered and a manhunt began. Within an hour, Routh was apprehended during a felony traffic stop on I-95. His escape plan failed, and he was taken into custody without further incident. The agent's decisive action prevented a national tragedy. After his arrest, Routh faced 5 federal charges, including attempted assassination of a presidential candidate and assaulting a federal officer. Additional charges included being a felon in possession of a firearm, possessing a firearm with an obliterated serial number, and possessing a firearm in furtherance of a violent crime. The prosecution's case was airtight, linking every action and weapon directly to Routh's plot. On September 23, 2025, the jury found him guilty on all counts after less than 3 hours of deliberation. The conviction confirmed Routh's intent and the seriousness of his crimes. He now faces a maximum sentence of life in prison. The legal process moved swiftly toward its conclusion. The reading of the guilty verdict shattered the tense silence in the courtroom. Routh lunged for a pen, attempting to stab himself in the neck, but was quickly subdued by U.S. Marshals. His daughter Sarah erupted in protest, screaming accusations of a rigged trial as officers escorted her out. Judge Aileen Cannon swiftly restored order, removing the jury and ensuring Routh received medical attention. The chaos underscored the emotional toll of the case on everyone involved. Routh's desperate act and his daughter's outburst highlighted the personal devastation behind the headlines. The trial ended not just with a verdict, but with a raw display of anguish and disorder. Prosecutors meticulously assembled their case, drawing from a vast trove of both digital and physical evidence. The courtroom was filled with boxes of documents, electronic devices, and carefully cataloged items, each piece contributing to a narrative of careful planning and chilling intent. The prosecution's strategy was clear: overwhelm any doubt with the sheer volume and detail of their findings, leaving the jury with a comprehensive picture of what had transpired. Among the most compelling evidence was cell phone data, which mapped Routh's movements with remarkable precision. Investigators discovered that he had made no fewer than 17 separate reconnaissance trips to the golf club, each visit carefully timed and documented. Surveillance footage captured his car arriving at the scene on multiple occasions, reinforcing the idea that this was not a spontaneous act, but a meticulously planned operation. The data painted a clear timeline, showing how Routh studied the club's routines, security measures, and entry points. The digital trail didn't end there. Burner phones, recovered from Routh's possession, revealed a disturbing pattern of internet searches. He had looked up the president's schedule, mapped out possible escape routes, and even checked for the locations of traffic cameras along potential getaway paths. Law enforcement experts testified that these searches were not random, but part of a calculated effort to avoid detection and maximize the chances of success. The burner phones themselves were purchased with cash, further indicating a desire to cover his tracks. Physical evidence was equally damning. The SKS rifle found at the scene was loaded and ready to fire. Forensic teams recovered Routh's fingerprints and DNA from the weapon, confirming his direct connection. The rifle was equipped with a scope and multiple magazines, suggesting he had prepared for a prolonged confrontation. Experts testified that the weapon had been cleaned and maintained, indicating it was not only functional but intended for use. Investigators also noted that the serial number on the rifle had been deliberately filed off, a classic tactic to prevent tracing. Perhaps most chilling was the discovery of a 12-page handwritten manifesto. In it, Routh detailed his motivations, outlined his plan, and even offered money to his brothers, urging them to finish the job if he failed. The manifesto was filled with ideological justifications and personal grievances, providing a window into his mindset and the depth of his commitment. The prosecution also presented a series of emotional text messages Routh sent to his children in the hours before the attempt. These messages read like final goodbyes, filled with regret and foreboding. His son, alarmed by the tone and content, tried desperately to alert authorities, but the warning came too late. The texts added a deeply personal dimension to the case, showing that Routh was fully aware of the gravity of his actions and the likely consequences. When all the evidence was laid out, digital footprints, physical weapons, written confessions, and emotional farewells, it formed a mosaic of premeditation, intent, and a chilling willingness to kill. The prosecution's case was not built on a single piece of evidence, but on the overwhelming weight of many, each reinforcing the other. Faced with this mountain of evidence, the jury was left with little doubt about Routh's deadly purpose and the lengths he was willing to go to carry out his plan. Routh represented himself, arguing he never fired the rifle and thus lacked true intent to kill. He claimed the gun jammed, supported by his daughter's testimony. Prosecutors countered with firearms experts who proved the weapon was fully functional. The law requires only intent and a substantial step toward the crime, not completion. Routh's reconnaissance, armed presence, and aiming of the rifle met that threshold. The jury rejected his defense, finding the evidence of intent overwhelming. Routh's background revealed a pattern of instability, violence, and grandiosity. An itinerant contractor with a felony record, he was legally barred from owning firearms. Friends described him as conspiratorial and prone to wild claims. He had traveled to Ukraine, posing as a mercenary leader and seeking significance through conflict. This history of erratic behavior and a thirst for notoriety culminated in his assassination attempt. Prosecutors argued his actions were the ultimate expression of a dangerous, delusional mindset. Routh was not an ordinary citizen who snapped, but a man long drawn to violence and chaos. The verdict drew swift reactions, with Donald Trump praising the Secret Service and the justice system for averting disaster. Officials emphasized the importance of accountability for political violence, framing the conviction as a defense of democracy. Attorney General Pam Bondi called it a clear message against attacks on public officials. Routh now awaits sentencing, facing the likelihood of decades or life behind bars. His courtroom outburst may result in suicide watch as he awaits his fate. The story that began with a hidden rifle ends in a courtroom, where justice will be finalized on December 18th. The nation moves forward, reminded of the fragility of peace and the need for vigilance.